Hello, nice to meet you. I am Kim Ki-hyun from Richgo. The real estate market in Seoul has been heating up. And not long ago, when Richgo upgraded the market data for complexes with more than 500 units, the content was somewhat different from before. So, there is still some increase happening now, but that was last week. Let me check the date. Based on the real estate statistics that were compiled on July 29th and released on August 2nd, the real estate market is currently experiencing a rapid slowdown. In January 2024, there was a special provision for newborns. And what else was there? When getting married, the gift tax exemption limit will be increased to 150 million won per person, allowing for tax-free gifts up to 300 million won. Due to these policies, the real estate market has been continuously thriving in February. It has now been confirmed by the current data that a rapid halt has occurred since the end of July. So, I will discuss this part in relation to the national supply and demand trends and transaction trends. Here, you can see the sales and rental flower chart. As you can see, Daegu is still not doing well. And while Sejong is slightly improving, it is still not good. Busan is also not doing well. So the real estate market is currently poor, in the order of Daegu, Sejong, and Busan. The farthest right is Seoul, which currently has the best sales conditions. However, if you look at Seoul, the previously hot and continuously rising sales supply index has finally stopped. It has slightly turned downward. In the case of Incheon, the sales supply was rising steadily, but it has now decreased for 2 consecutive weeks. So, Incheon is also experiencing a bit of a break. On the other hand, Gyeonggi province is still in good supply conditions, so the supply situation in Gyeonggi province remains relatively stable. If we look at this in a bit more detail, can you see the red line? This red line indicates a high number of buyers, and it has finally decreased. This means that the previously hot market is now seeing a reduction in buying momentum. As I mentioned, I originally expressed my outlook for the 2024 real estate market as cautious, because it is not a general upward trend. After June, I indicated that there could be some abnormalities in the real estate market starting in July, which could lead to a downturn, and this was just a week before the implementation of the stress DSR. The implementation of the stress DSR has been postponed to September, so I have changed my outlook. How did you change it? Starting from September 2024, the market trend could change. As we saw through the data last year, these government policies tend to last until about a week in August, so it might be fine until then, but after that, their effectiveness diminishes. From September, the stress DSR will be implemented, and then what happens in October? Starting from the 4th quarter of 2024, the supply of new apartments in Seoul will significantly increase. So in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd quarters of 2024, there will be a very small number of new move-ins, with less than 5,000 units coming in consecutively. But starting from the 4th quarter, the number of move-ins will increase significantly. Therefore, the movements in the real estate market in the second half of the year, especially starting from September, are likely to gradually shift from the current hot, upward trend to a downward trend. Data shows that since the end of July, the previously booming real estate market in Seoul has hit a sudden break. We can observe that the other regions are relatively stable, showing no significant changes. However, transaction volume is very important. Before discussing transactions, I will first divide Seoul into Gangnam and Gangbuk to show you the details. When we break down the regions, we can see the differences between Gangnam and Gangbuk. So, which area is cooling down more? Gangnam is cooling down. If you look at it, Gangnam is moving to the left. You can see that the previously soaring supply and demand has dropped down. It has come down a little, not a drastic drop. Starting from Gangnam, what is happening now? The supply and demand is turning down. And how about Gangbuk? The supply and demand is still good there. So, the hot upward trend in Gangnam has now spread to Gangbuk, but Gangnam is actually cooling down a bit, as shown by the supply and demand data. Now let's look at the current transaction trends. Transactions have completely plummeted and there has been a decrease in trading. I will show you this with some data. If you look at Seoul, Gyeonggi province and Incheon, all of them have turned downwards to the left. Turning downwards means that John's transactions are decreasing, while moving to the left indicates that sales transactions are also decreasing. Now if we look at Seoul, transactions increased until July 21st, but after that they have started to decrease again. It's not just sales transactions that are decreasing. John's transactions are also declining again. Let me show you a recent chart. As you can see, the sales and John's transactions in Seoul which were continuously rising, have now slightly turned to a decline. Of course, we can't conclude anything from just 1 week, but the important point is that a sudden break has been applied. Both supply and demand and transaction trends have hit a sudden break. If this situation continues for a month or two, then as Kim Ki-hyun projected based on the data, there is a high probability that some warning signs will emerge starting in September. Now let's take a look at Gyeonggi province. How is it doing? The number of transactions has decreased, right? The Jeonsi transactions have also decreased, right? Let's look at Incheon. Transactions in Incheon have also decreased. Currently, the entire metropolitan area is experiencing a decline in both sales and Jeon's transactions. Additionally, Gangwon province has seen a significant increase, indicating that both sales and Jeon's transactions in Gangwon have risen considerably compared to before. Furthermore, in Chungbuk, both sales and Jeonsi transactions have decreased. As you can see, a considerable number of regions are trending downwards. Where is that? The metropolitan area, then Chungbuk, then Jeonbuk, then Daegu, Daejeon, Busan, Gwangju. As a result, many regions are experiencing a decline in both sales transactions and Jeon's transactions, moving downwards and to the left. How is the situation in Ulsan? Ulsan has seen a slight increase in sales transactions, but overall, there hasn't been a significant change. Additionally, Jeon's transactions are currently decreasing again. In the case of Jeju Island, it was extremely bad, but it has slightly improved now. Although it has slightly gotten better from a very poor state, there are still no transactions. So, what about regions like Daejeon, Daegu, Jeonnam, Busan, Gwangju, Gyeongbuk, and Jeonbuk? The transactions are currently quite low. A low transaction volume indicates that the energy is not very good yet. And in the metropolitan area, especially in Seoul, transactions are still the most active, but both sales and rental markets are currently losing momentum. So, in terms of supply and demand and transaction volume, it now seems like there is some kind of sudden break being applied since the end of July. It is not possible to make a judgment based on just 1 week, so it would be good to observe whether, as Kim Ki-hyun projected, there will be a definite change in trend starting from September by checking the updated data week by week. And if I may briefly mention an advertisement, I will be giving a quarterly outlook lecture in September. A lecture on the outlook for the real estate market. However, I believe it is very important to check these aspects quarterly because the market situation is currently very urgent. Therefore, I have also prepared for September. On September 28th at 11 a.m., I will be giving a lecture on the overall outlook of the real estate market for 3 hours, as well as a regional outlook lecture. I recommend that anyone interested register in advance, either online or offline. I look forward to seeing you at the outlook lecture on September 28th. Thank you.